Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Break. It's Steve Barrett here, the editorial director, PR Week. Really delighted to have with me Lou Hoffman, who is president and CEO of the Hoffman Agency. And Lou, you've been doing this 35 years in the Valley. I think you're based around San Jose. Welcome to Coffee Break. Really looking forward to chatting with you about the tech agency sector.
Thank you, Steve. In honor of today's show, you'll be pleased to know I actually had 2 cups of coffee before coming on with you.
Excellent. You'll be bouncing off the walls of that kitchen behind you. So that sounds good. Listen, let's take it back to 1987. I think you've been working in journalism. You've done a bit of PR, and you set up your own agency. Tell us about the formation of it and what led you to do that. I'd love to hear the story.
Yeah, I suppose the catalyst for setting up the agency was kind of in the spirit of Silicon Valley, that we saw a better way. In my previous agency life, I had worked at agencies where there was such pressure on billability and being measured by billing quotas. And I just felt that was wrong. Not that financial performance shouldn't matter, but I felt that the work itself should be the lead pin, not the billable hours. And that was really the catalyst for starting the shop.
And you started up in 87. What did Silicon Valley look like then? I mean, it's way before the .com era. We got no social media, we got no cell phones. It's a very different time, wasn't it?
It was crazy. I mean, I can remember when I first opened up our doors. If you can believe this, I subscribed to a faxing service. So I didn't even have my own fax. I would drive a mile to this car garage, and they actually had a fax that they were running to pick up some incremental money. And I would hand them my document, and they would fax it to the recipient. It's crazy.
That's fantastic. And now you're a 40 million plus. Sorry, you're a 28 million. Agency, and you're up 40. That was where the 40 came from. You were up 40% last year, and like everyone else, well, not like everyone, but everyone did well. But you did particularly well. Talk to us about last year. Was that a year that you unprecedented? Can you remember that sort of growth at any other time, even in the .com era?
No, it was definitely a record year for us, and I think it reflects our propositions really starting to get traction. So when we expanded overseas, it was always with the goal that there would be a market for an agency that could bring together North America, Asia Pac, and Europe with a maniacal focus on technology. And we saw that really come to bear last year, and we think we're continuing the momentum into this year.
Yeah, you said that you expect to grow 50% this year in the US and good growth else in global. What's driving it? What sort of work is it? And give us an example of that sort of global work and the US work that's really driving such amazing growth.
Yeah, what's really driving the growth is we're starting to win business in bigger accounts, and those bigger accounts are a byproduct of being able to support clients across multiple geographies. So in a lot of cases, it's not like the individual country market is a massive budget, but you start to add it together where you're supporting a client in the US, maybe Germany and the UK, maybe it's China, Japan, and Korea, and you have reasonable budgets in all those markets, and you knit them together, and all of a sudden you've got a sizable remit. So that's really the key driver. I would say the second driver for us is we've moved, like a lot of agencies have, to an integrated product where we're bringing together not just the traditional PR services, but also owned media and paid media. And we're seeing that really start to get some traction as well, because what it allows us to do is to solve problems for our clients, as opposed to kind of the traditional PR remit where you're asked to build a public profile for a specific client.
Yeah, I guess back in 87, was it mainly media relations? Would that have been the majority of the business back then?
Yeah, it was all media relations. And I would even take it a step further and say so much of that media relations was driven by news releases and news announcements. And that's where we've really seen the industry change to today, because to a large extent, the internet has commoditized news, and particularly product news. So it's forced agencies like ourselves to move into more creative programming and really put an emphasis on thought leadership as the tactic that kind of leads most of our campaigns.
And how's the media landscape changed in that time? You mentioned there that, there's news is a commodity now. I remember really robust print computer magazines about the size of doorstops. We did all very, very well out of that, and they've long gone. But so how's the media landscape changed?
Yeah, it's changed a ton for sure. As if we kind of go back in time when Craigslist came out, and it was kind of the start of decimating a lot of media properties, and we saw a lot of media properties not have the proper economics to stay in business. There was a lot of talk that media relations was going to virtually disappear because there wouldn't be anyone to pitch. But really, the opposite has happened. It's just not in the same format as everything being so clearly defined. This is a journalist, this is a PR person, this is an industry analyst. Now, in today's world, it's much more blurred, and I would argue there's a greater pool of people to pitch and people that you want to influence and get into your court. But it's not just so crisply defined the way it was, 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, TechCrunch and Wired was a very desirable place to get covered, wasn't it? And there were loads of other sort of tech trades. But have they gone away? Are they less important, or have they just evolved?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. To me, they've evolved. So it's still a fantastic win to be able to get into a Wired magazine or get into a Bloomberg Business Week. But kind of offsetting that, there's also individuals like I'll just throw it out because we do a lot of work in the semiconductor sector. There's a gentleman named Ian Cuttress, and he used to be a trade journalist. Now he's gone off on his own. He does some consulting. He's an industry analyst, but he's got a blog that has a considerable traction. And oh, by the way, his YouTube channel gets a lot of views. So all of a sudden, someone like that becomes a person that's high on the radar for our semiconductor clients.
Yeah, you got people like that. You've got Substackers. You've got the Information launch, didn't it? You've got some other really interesting launches. Actually, I think it's a really exciting time for media. I think for once there's a bit of money behind it. But we'll see how that carries on. Tell us a bit about how the agency landscape's changed and who you bump into when you're going for business. There used to be the Valley was dominated by specialists, and tech specialists, and a lot of the big guys and gals like the Edelmans, Webbers, Ketchums, Fleischmans struggled a little bit to make their way. Do you bump into them now? Do you think they've improved their offers, and what's the agency landscape like?
Yeah, I do think they've improved their offering in the tech sector for sure. So I think the big agencies like who you mentioned, the Edelmans, the Weber Shandwicks, the H&Ks, the BCWs of the world are formidable, and we come up against them a lot, particularly when we're pitching for these multi-country, multi-geographic opportunities. And I think for us, we have a proposition that really differentiates this idea that we can take a very high-touch approach to these clients, and we can do it with a single P&L model where it doesn't mean that we don't keep P&L at the regional level and even at the office level, but we don't worship it. The goal is at the global level. So what it does is it allows us to, I think, in a lot more elegant and smooth fashion, be able to leverage content and thinking across geographies. So the client is actually getting one true global virtual team, as opposed to a lot of silos.
Yeah. Now, listen, you did a really interesting exercise toward the end of last year where you surveyed your staffers, because we all know that talent is the biggest issue in the industry at the moment. There's a talent crunch, and getting and keeping your people, your best people especially, is crucial in a people-oriented business. And you went through an exercise. Why don't you tell us a bit about that, what drove it, and what the results were?
Yeah, sure. There's obviously been a lot of talk the last year about the great resignation, and we hear about a lot of turnover in industry in general, not just agencies. Last year we had 17% voluntary turnover, which we thought was pretty good. We believe we're going to.
It's not
Yeah,
bad.
thanks.
25 to 40% we've seen elsewhere.
And we think we're going to do better this year. And, to me, I think the agencies themselves have to take some accountability for building a workplace and an employee experience that lands with staff and that resonates with them. And so we've been really disciplined in having formal mechanisms and informal mechanisms to get feedback from staff and make sure we're adjusting our workplace. So one thing we did last fall is we went through a pretty rigorous employee survey, asking a lot of questions from staff. And for the most part, it was fairly positive. But the one question we asked that did set off the alarm bells was, do you enjoy coming to work? Pretty simple question. And in spite of the positive feedback from the other questions, this one turned out that 33% of our staff did not look forward to coming to work. That's not good, right? I think we can both agree.
Yeah.
And so,
when you say coming to work, that was done in pandemic. So presumably you mean not coming to a physical location. You mean, just working for
the job,
the organization. Yeah.
Yeah, and I should add to that we recognize that there are other factors that affect a person beyond what's within an agency's control. But still, the feeling was that we needed to dig into this and understand what we could be doing better to get people to look forward to coming to work. And as we dug into it, it turned out that this feeling largely sat with our younger staff, our account coordinators, our AEs, our SAEs. And as we explored it, what we discovered was that working on 4 and in some cases 5 accounts was just too much. It was causing anxiety. It was causing a lot of stress. And so even though it was fairly painful for us to go through a restructuring, and to be transparent, there was an economic cost to doing it. We still did it. And we now have restructured things where those folks are working on 3 accounts at the most. And the payoff of that is we do a quick pulse check with our staff in the springtime. And we did that last month. And we asked the same question: do you look forward to coming to work? And that number now is at 93%. So it's great to get that feedback and to understand that what we did actually had the desired outcome that we wanted.
Yeah, that's a very valuable lesson, isn't it? And really, really valuable in this day and age. Just to finish up, Lou,
Sure.
I think you're officially sort of going back to the office, as they say, in mid-June. Talk us through how you've approached that and what you expect when that happens.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. I know there's been some agencies that have gone fully virtual, and they think that's right for them, and that is their call. I'm obviously not going to tell other agencies how to run their business. We think it's important to have an office that kind of anchors us, and so we're going to go back in a hybrid model. 2 days in the office, 3 days out, but with maximum flexibility. So if someone wants to miss that morning commute and come in at 9:30, 10 o'clock, that's fine. Miss that afternoon commute, take off at 3:30, that's fine. Even if someone feels like, you know what, that doesn't work for me, I'm going to come in just 1 day a week, that's fine. Our view is that we're, like everyone else, inventing this as we go along. And so it's in our best interest to be super flexible And then, 2-3 months down the road, as we get into, September, October, we'll see how things are going and make the adjustments that we need to make.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the next Pulse survey. And
Yeah.
but things are going well by the sounds of it, Lou. After 35 years, you're still going strong. So it's been great to chat to you and catch up and find out about the agency and the history, but the impressive future ahead of you. So thanks for joining Coffee Break.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Steve.